morning. All right, so as I mentioned, we really want to show you all of the dazzling features that are available in Pear Deck. A few business items first. Pear Deck is on the Orange CSD approved technology list of tools. I've been using it all year. I put in the software request forms for it back in the fall. So it is on the list of approved tools. It is also free right now until the end of June. So you can use all of the premium features that we're going to show you today. Moreover, I've already consulted with Karen and with Brian regarding adding it to the budget for next year for teachers who are really interested in using it. So don't feel like, I'm going to use it now, I'm going to get all these premium features, and then it's going to be gone, because we've already kind of done the work of thinking about budgeting for it for next year. Okay, so here's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk a little bit about why Pear Deck and what's really involved. So Pear Deck, and the reason I love it so much, is it really enables you to harness the best of technology to design lessons and deliver your content-rich curriculum, whether that is virtually, and with magic, by the way, or whether that is in the physical setting of the classroom. So at its core, what's really involved with Pear Deck is that you are simply building your slide decks. You're making your slide decks interactive by embedding formative assessment. And in doing so, you're increasing student engagement and facilitating student feedback and student response. So that's a little bit of the what and the why. Today, we're going to talk about the basics. So I'm going to show you some of the templates that are already in Pear Deck that are ready to go that you could just grab and use. We're going to explore question types and how you can build your own custom slides to fit your teaching points. We're going to look at the 3 views in Pear Deck and what that looks like in the physical classroom and what that means for remote learning. Then you're going to get to be the student and actually go through and experience a Pear Deck. Then Mike and I are going to show you the teacher dashboard so that you can see all of the rich data and insights that can be gleaned from that. And then lastly, we're going to invite you to give it a go and build your own interactive slides and come back next week and join us to share those. So, a few of the basics. There are 5 question types that you can insert to make your Pear Deck slides or make your Google Slides interactive, to make them Pear Deck slides. You can do text, multiple choice, numbers, drawing slides, and draggable slides. And then there are website slides, which we'll talk about and we'll show you today. The 2 premium slides, as you can see, are drawing and draggables. So in order to use those question types, you have to have the premium version, which you can get for free right now, which we're also going to be budgeting for next year. Pear Deck, as of Tuesday, added the option to insert audio, which means it's now competing with not even competing really. I mean, it's surpassing Screencastify and Edpuzzle, given the amount of interactivity that you can put into it and the fact that you can now layer in audio. So we're going to show you that as well. All right, so I want to start with the orchard full of templates that are already in Pear Deck that you can grab and go or that you can customize. So Pear Deck has several content partners, the first of which is the Google Be Internet Awesome curriculum. So basically Pear Deck and Google built out their entire digital citizenship Be Internet Awesome curriculum in digital lessons that are delivered via Pear Deck slides. So share with care, don't fall for fake news, like that's already built out and can be ready for you to grab and go. And we might draw on that for some of our Pride curriculum if we're not already doing so. Some of the other curated collections include these weekly wonders that are kind of built around teaching truths like cultivating compassion and tackling tenacity. These are things you can grab and go, or you can customize to meet your curriculum, your goals, your purpose. One other thing I really want to draw attention to that Pear Deck has also partnered with Newsela, We do have Newsela as a district, and we want to fully utilize that. Pear Deck is putting out Newsela daily decks that take a Newsela article and create that Pear Deck slide interactivity to promote news and media literacy skills, as well as digital reading and writing. So obviously you wouldn't want to, you're not going to grab these unless they're connected to your content, but you might want to borrow one and like copy change it and make it fit whatever you're teaching, and even customize the article to match your teaching goals. A couple other things that Pear Deck has included in their already made templates and curated decks are these SEL templates, which basically just you can grab them and insert them into your own slide decks to kind of take your kids' emotional temperature, if you will. So they have a lot of content that's already built out that you can, that's all fully customizable. So this is what Pear Deck looks like in the regular classroom. And Pear Deck looks this way in remote learning. So we want to talk about how you can do it both ways. And in order to understand that, you have to understand the 3 Pear Deck views. So you can see here on my screen, there's a teacher dashboard view. There's a participant view, which is what the students see, and there's a projector view. So for this session today, I'm sending the projector view. I'm casting the projector view through the Google Meets. But in a few moments, you're going to get in and be the student, and you're going to either open a new tab or a new window and see the student view. So you're going to have 2 tabs or 2 windows open, the Meet, which is casting the projector view, and then a new tab with the student view. Okay, but before we have you be the student, we want to show you how to build a Pear Deck slide. So I'm going to exit out of this projector view and actually go back to my Google slide deck. And also, Mike, let's take this opportunity to answer any questions that are up in the chat.
There's nothing in the chat yet, but...
Nothing in the chat yet. Okay. All right. So now you should be seeing my Google slide deck. Mike, are you seeing that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. So I'm going to show you how I build an interactive Pear Deck slide. So here I have this slide asking you to rank your level of comfort with Pear Deck. Need to practice, just drafted, sophomore year, or vet. A little bit of the football draft was inspiring the way we worded that question. If I want to make this a draggable slide for you, I'm going to go over here and click draggable. I'm adding a draggable question. It lets me customize, you know, say I want you to do a flag and I want it to be purple or whatever. I click update slide. And I've just made that slide interactive. So when you log in as a student, you will actually get a flag that you can drag to indicate your level of comfort. Now I'm seeing that that actually didn't create my interactive slide, because if it was interactive, I would see a bar running across the bottom of the slide, and I don't. So I'm going to try that again. And I'm going to click update slide again and see if it works. There we go. So once you see this bar running across the bottom of the screen, along with this little Perry guy, you know that that slide is interactive. If you delete that bar, you no longer have an interactive slide. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you can do things with Pear Deck that you can do with Screencastify and that you can do with Edpuzzle, which is why I like it so much. I feel like it's got all of the features that we desire. So you can add audio, which I'm going to do right now. Simply add audio. You can record over your slides, or you can upload an existing recording of something else. So I'm just going to record. What is it that I can do with Pear Deck that I couldn't do before? I save that. I add the audio to the slide. And you could see up here that it says audio included. So when students are in my slides in student paced mode, they can hear my voice overlaid. And I could use that to guide pronunciation in a foreign language class or in a speech class. I can use that for a strategic think aloud or read aloud. I could use that audio feature in a variety of ways. I'm going to show you one more way you can build a slide, and then we'll take a couple questions before you get into student pace mode. So here I built this deck kind of around the theme of Earth Day, which you'll notice once you enter as a student. But what are some ways you've made your home environmentally friendly to make Earth Day every day? So I'm going to make that a text slide. And when you log in as a student, you'll be able to type your response. You can see down here, I've added a response slide where you're going to type your response. All right, so that's how you make slides interactive with the add-on, and a little bit of some of the basics like projector view, templates, and kind of the why behind Pear Deck and why it's such a great ed tech tool. Mike, do we have questions in the chat that we can respond to at this point?
The only question that I've seen is from Trish, and she's asking if the audio automatically plays or if they have to click it. I haven't seen it from the student view, but I know we're going to get there eventually. Do you know the answer to that?
You're going to experience that right now when you go in. Trish, that's a great question. Pear Deck just added audio on Tuesday, and something with the audio has changed each day. So it might play automatically. It might play when you click on it. We're going to see. I see another question in the chat from David. How are they better or equal to Edpuzzle?
It's a little bit different than Edpuzzle, I'd say.
Yeah.
It's more of taking a slide deck rather than a video, but you can also embed an Edpuzzle into the slide deck as well, which Renee's going to get to in a little bit. Heather asked, do students have to respond to a question before it advances to the next slide? So Heather, that depends on how you present the slide deck, whether it's student paced or if it's presenter paced. Michelle Suduka Weinstein said, was the text response slide next slide that you physically had? We will show that in a few minutes. And I'm trying to read through these quickly as I'm talking to see if this is stuff that we're going to get through. Lisa asked about grading. Keith asked about what we feel if it's better than Edpuzzle. I think it depends on what your outcome is, your why. There are different tools for different reasons, in my opinion, and if your why is to get students to watch a video and have data that they watch that video, Edpuzzle's the way to go. It's a lot simpler, it's a lot more basic for that outcome. If you're more teaching in-depth instruction, I would embed that Edpuzzle into a Pear Deck. Do you have a different response, Renee, or do you agree?
No, I completely agree. I think Pear Deck, and for those of you who joined late, we really talked about the why in the first couple minutes, but I just want to kind of reiterate that, is that Pear Deck really lets you harness the best of technology to deliver instruction either live or in student pace mode, which would be asynchronous. And it allows you to, I guess, continue with that great pedagogy and deliver your content-rich curriculum and still like embed some of those other tools. But it's more, I guess more teachers, it empowers you more as a teacher to design rather than Edpuzzle, which is just kind of uploading a video, even if it's one you made yourself and you added questions. Pear Deck is a little more interactive. And it also, when we show you the teacher dashboard, you're going to see that it gives you lots of really good data, and it gives students something called takeaways, which promote their ongoing learning and self-assessment. We'll show you that later on.
So we also got go ahead, Renee.
No, go ahead.
Okay, we got a question while you were talking about what we mean by a text response slide, which you're going to show. And David asked real quick if Edpuzzles let the kids pause the videos to answer a question on something different. It depends on your settings for the video.
Yes. And going back, again, if you came in...
Michael?
Yes.
It's David. I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify. That wasn't my question. My question was
Okay.
that Edpuzzle, when you embed a video in Edpuzzle, it keeps the kids from going elsewhere, and it allows you as the instructor or whatever, the creator, to pause the video at specific places to provide students a note or a question that they'd have to interact with. And I don't know anything about Pear Deck. Does Pear Deck do the same thing? I know it's all about the why, but I want to know how these two stack up against each other specifically in that regard.
So if you're specifically using just a video for your informed instruction or to inform instruction, I would probably say Edpuzzle's the way to go, because Pear Deck's based off of the Google Slides, and it's designed to, if you need to add a video, a short clip to it. Edpuzzle does allow you to embed the videos from Edpuzzle that you've created into the Pear Deck, so you can do one package deal rather than sending the kids multiple different places. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think I'll just watch to see, because I think you said earlier that later in this presentation, you're going to show how you can embed video into Pear Deck.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're going to move you into student pace mode, as I said earlier, and let you experience Pear Deck as a student. And then we'll take time for more questions at the end. But I see that someone asked, what kinds of questions can you embed? And if you look back at my slide here that I'm projecting, there's 5 question types, and there are website slides. So there are all different types of slides that you can make into Pear Deck slides with different question types. Okay, so let's have you be the student, and I'm going to click Start Lesson, and I'm going to go into instructor paced mode, which means I'm going to guide you through the Pear Deck. While you're in it, I can lock responses. I can see everything that you're doing as a student. If I wanted to share this with you kind of asynchronously for you to watch and do on your own, I would select student paced mode, but I want instructor paced for our purposes today. And in a moment, you're going to see a code. You're going to go to joinpd.com and type in the Pear Deck code that should be popping up in the window at any moment. A little slow today.
Renee, I don't know if you saw the email from Pear Deck today or not, but they said that they are upgrading their servers today.
Okay.
To handle the bandwidth errors that they've been having. So
okay.
Pear Deck's running a little bit slower than what they would like, so they're buying more server space.
Awesome. Great. So as I mentioned earlier in the session, you can open 2 windows or 2 tabs. You're going to go to joinpd.com and enter the code UNQWA, Underwhelmed Ninjas Quiz Warm Avocados. I could also share the link to this with you right in the chat, which is something you can do with students as well, so that they don't have to physically enter the code themselves. But I see I have 5 students connected on this projector view. I'm going to wait until I see more people are connected before I continue. I'll also pop the link in the chat for people who are asking for it there. Just know that you can do it 2 ways. We have 6 students connected.
There's 11 people in the presentation other than us.
Okay. So once we see that more of you are in the student view, we'll move on. Okay. So moving on, you're going to be the student, as I mentioned earlier, kind of built some slides for you, pretty simple elementary slides around the concept of Earth Day and being environmentally friendly. But this just gives you a sense of what it's like to experience Pear Deck live, and then what the student sees, really, and what kinds of questions you can add as a teacher. So please take a moment to rank your level of comfort with Pear Deck by dragging the purple flag. So students, you can drag the icon. And if you navigate back to my projector view, which is what's casting through the Meet, you can see that as your teacher, I can see where everyone's moving their flags. So I see the majority of you, most of you are putting your flags down at the bottom. One person's saying, "That, Mike, is that you?"
Yes, it is.
And some are saying, "Hey, I'm just drafted." Okay, so I'm showing the responses. Now I can hide the responses. Notice when I show the responses on the Pear Deck slide, they are anonymous from the projector view. If I were to pull up my teacher dashboard view, which I have behind me in a separate window, I would actually see who said what. So I could see who said vet there. But the projector view is anonymous. So moving on, let's do a couple more slides together. What are some ways you've made your home environmentally friendly to make every day Earth Day? Go ahead and type your response. So if you navigate back to my projector view, you will see that I can see everyone's responses. I could also, in the classroom or in the Google Meet, have these responses projected anonymously for everyone else to see. So most people are saying appliances, obvious things like bringing your own bags to the grocery store, etc. Let's do a few more together to practice and look at the different question types and what you can really do. So if I wanted you to watch this video, I could have you watch this video of Jane Goodall where she talks about the environment and her work, but I'm not gonna do that. Instead, I'm gonna ask you to sketch or capture in a quick sketch the meaning of her quote from the video, which states each little species, even though it may seem insignificant, has a role to play in the tapestry of life. You'll notice lots of sketching tools down at the bottom of your screen. You can change color, you can change size, you can overlay text on your sketch. You could be sketching, using the sketch tools to show your work for a math problem or to draw a diagram in science or to, capture a sketch for social studies. I'm going to go ahead and show some of the responses. So you can navigate back to my projector view because I'm going to show you different ways that you can see responses. So we've got trees, we've got all sorts of little sketches popping up here. There's a couple different ways you can see or project responses. You can do this list layout. You can do a grid layout such as this. Or for certain sketches, you might want to use overlay, which you wouldn't want to necessarily use for this particular sketch, but it's great if you're doing something like a graph in math and you want to show how student sketches line up with the correct answer, for example. So moving on, just do one more with me. So what are the benefits and limitations of non-renewable energy sources? For this inquiry, which sources would you consult? Circle 3 you'd start with. Okay, so I'm seeing some responses here.
Renee, I think right now would be a good time to show the lock screens button.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to show you how we can lock the screen. Like if I wanted you to stop responding or if I wanted to, end this question, I could lock the screen and have you all bring your attention to the projector view. So there's nothing you could do at this point in student pace mode because I've locked your screen. Now we could all come back to the projector view and look at whatever layout we want, grid, overlay, or list, to see and have a conversation about the kind of sources we would consult for this inquiry or for this research question that we have about energy sources. Mike, is there anything else you want to add at this point?
No, I think you've hit everything that we wanted to at this point.
Okay, so I'm going to unlock you. I'm going to show you a website slide with an embedded flip grid. I'm going to show you a couple other website slides as well. You don't have to answer any more questions at this point. I'm just going to take you through some more examples. You can pop in an infographic. Here's a math problem that involves graphing that students can draw the response and show their work on the sides. I've included a couple of poems here, and I inserted one of Pear Deck's critical thinking templates that would support students in comparing and contrasting the tone of the speaker in each poem. And then if I wanted to insert a flip grid or an ed puzzle, I could do that right here in Pear Deck. So if you're in student pace mode, you should be seeing my slide, and then off to the side, you should see the option to get in flip grid. Mike, are you seeing that?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
one thing I do want to bring up right now, though, is a lot of our students, for whatever reason, don't want to be using their Chromebooks and are using other devices. So if you are going to embed a website like Newsela or Flipgrid or Edpuzzle where they have to be logged into their Google account, sorry, you want to make sure that you put a note somewhere before they get into the Pear Deck that if they are using a different device and using an incognito window, some of the settings on the parent account that's on that Google Chrome are going to block a incognito window from opening the pop-up to log into the separate site. I hope I said that in a way that makes sense to everybody.
Yes. Thank you, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing to note is that in order to see the website slides fully, you do have to have your window large. If you have a little tiny window open, you might not see the website or the flip grid off to the side. Okay, but you can insert your flip grids, your YouTube videos, your ed puzzles, everything right here in Pear Deck. And then students don't have to navigate and maneuver to lots of different places to find their assignments, which is what I said earlier about kind of packaging instruction in Pear Deck, and it really helps us to do that and keep up those levels of engagement. So I want you to take a moment to respond to this text slide. What are the implications for Pear Deck for instruction that you're seeing right now based on what you just experienced as a student? Take a minute to do that.
One thing that I want to add that I love about these text slides is I'm often someone who says something and then thinks of something else to say. And there's a button when you're typing your answer after you have something typed in there that says add another response. So it gives the student the option that once they submit, even if they haven't seen the other answers yet, they can go back and give a second or a follow-up answer.
Mm-hmm. And just a reminder, like if I wanted to, to lock your screens at this point and draw all your attention back to the projector view to see the responses, I could do that. But I just want to summarize some of the responses. People are saying, makes my current slideshows look so boring and one-directional. I can make learning so interactive this way. Pear Deck has lots of options for embedding social emotional support. Don't forget those awesome options for embedding literacy and for also embedding some of the digital citizenship pieces that I talked about early in the session. Very interactive, variety of response types, etc. Okay, so I'm projecting those responses. I'm going to hide those now. And we're going to stop student paced mode, and I'm going to ask you to just come back to my projector view in the Meet. Okay. So I'm so excited that you all are so excited about Pear Deck and all of the options it gives you as a teacher. We want to spend a few minutes talking about the teacher dashboard, which is probably which is where you capture all that really rich data and where you can also send students takeaways so they have a summary of their learning and kind of a record of their learning for self-assessment and for goal setting moving forward. So Mike, do you want to take over with the teacher dashboard?
Do you want to show the teacher dashboard before I do that?
So I'm going to project it through the Meet. I have to change my window here. Takes a moment. So happy to hear that Pear Deck is upgrading because it has been rather slow. Mike, let me know when you can see the teacher dashboard.
All right, it's up there.
Awesome. Okay, do you want to talk about this part, Mike?
So one of the nice things about the teacher dashboard, and whether you're in the classroom physically or you're working remotely, is you can have this window separate, and it's going to show you what slides are coming up. I know, like when I'm teaching in a classroom, it's a really good, helpful hint for me to know where I'm going, because oftentimes when I write the slides, I have all the ideas in my head and I write them in a way that transitions nicely, but often when I start talking, I talk about things that I know are coming up without the other stuff that's part of it. So this is the behind the scenes teacher look of the exact message that Renee was showing. So you can see, like, Brian right there, he has a green smiley face. That means Brian is rating himself as having a good day. Lindsay rated herself as in the middle, not great, not bad. You can see their social emotional learning response to that first question that always pops up. How are you doing today? And the other nice thing too is, go ahead.
I think this was the question that was about your comfort level with Pear Deck.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but if you look at the smiley faces, that's what that's showing.
Oh, okay. I see.
So this is the record for the teacher of the draggables and the drawing responses, where they could see the whole class all at once. And you can have this up while the students are seeing the student view or the student paced view. In the teacher dashboard, it shows who wrote what. So if you really like, let's say, Heather's answer right there, you can click the star. And then you can come back and highlight that later on in another lesson if you need to. And if you star too many things, you can either unclick one star or you can clear some stars later on.
You could also hide a response if you needed to. That's an option. Okay.
So I've never used this feature, the premium feature, in a classroom live, because I never had the premium accounts when I was using it live. And you can use a second device to show this and actually control the slides if you're in your classroom. And having the students work on the instructor paste or the projector paste, having your projector up there with one thing, and having the teacher dashboard, so you can go over and talk to specific students and really inform your instruction live.
Mm-hmm. I have used this live with the high school faculty in a series of Wednesday morning sessions I did with them, and having that teacher dashboard was so invaluable to kind of see where they were and how they were responding and interacting with the content. So it's really a very amazing way to capture data in real time. Also, if your students are working asynchronously in self-paced mode, say you've given them a link to your Pear Deck on Google Classroom and they're working in student-paced mode, you could log in, say you want them to get on between the hours of 8 and 10 and respond to your questions in the deck. You could get on and actually see them working in self-paced mode from the teacher dashboard. Now, we want to honor your time, and I know we said 40 minutes for this session. So, Mike, do we want to talk briefly about takeaways?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and take over the screen now.
Well, do you want me to show them how I end this first?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
So I'm going to end the session, and it's going to give me the option to name it. So we're going to call this Pear Deck pop-up. And I want to click Publish Student Takeaways so that you as a student will get a Google Doc automatically sent to you that shows all of your responses during the session. I will also get those automatically uploaded to my Google Drive as a teacher, where I could go and actually review your work and give you feedback and assess anything that I didn't get to do during the live session. So I'm going to click Publish Student Takeaways and save and end session.
So if you're doing a live session with students that's synchronously, that's the easy way to do it. There's also another way if you're doing an asynchronous lesson, which I will show as soon as I get the screen.
Oh, do you have the screen?
I'm trying right now. Do you see my screen? I still see yours.
I'm trying to stop presenting.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it says you're presenting.
Okay. So when you go to peardeck.com, you log in, you get this little homepage. They have different things that are coming up. There's pre-made activities, which Renee talked about at the beginning. And there's also this vocabulary factory, which we're actually going to have a separate session on next week, just because it's almost like its own tool. So when you click this sessions button, I already have it preloaded because it was taking so long to load. You can see that I have all of my sessions for the last 30 days. After 30 days, it's automatically archived that are closed. If you have any of these that are opened for student paste, or you just forgot to close, you can click the skinny snowman over to the right, and there will be a button in this menu for ending this session and giving it a name. Giving it a name is going to be important. If you're doing student paste, I would suggest starting the same slideshow 4 different times, one for each class period or each group of students that you want to grade, so that grading is easier later on. You also have a button right here to open up the teacher dashboard view, which Renee just finished showing you. So these takeaways are a premium feature, but as Renee was saying, right now, premium features are free. And I've gone ahead and gotten Pear Deck to add premium to everyone at Orange CSD's account until I think it's the end of June. Mm-hmm. So once it's there, once you're logged in, you should have a little crown. If you don't, send me an email and I'll follow up with them and let them know. You can also export to spreadsheet. So the difference between the takeaways and the spreadsheet is that the takeaways actually show every single slide that was in the slide deck. So all of these slides, regardless of the answers, are going to be there. Also, it's individualized per student. So you should have gotten the Google Drive, the Google Doc link in your email, just as if Renee shared it with you. And when you go to some of the questions that had, some of the slides that had questions, you'll see your response. There's also a place to take notes in that slide deck or in that Google Doc. So when you export it to the spreadsheet, it's going to create a spreadsheet for you, and it's going to be called student responses for, and then the session name. And you can see that Renee took my session, and it's going to tell the answers, unless it's a drawing or a draggable. The drawing and the draggables will say drawing or draggables because there's no real easy way in Google Sheets to see the responses. So as a teacher, you have a few different options of ways to hit and review what students' responses were individually or as a whole class.
Thank you, Mike.
No problem.
A couple questions in the chat, and then we'll end for today. So Lisa's asking, Does Pear Deck lock students' screen while they are in student paced mode, or can they go to another tab to look up information and get answers?
It does not.
It does not let you lock them into that tab.
No, they're not locked to joinpd.com when
Okay.
they're in it.
Okay.
It just locks the ability to respond when the teacher has it in lock mode.
Yes. Lindsay, you're asking, how do you add students so they already have to be in classroom? Yes. Pear Deck plays beautifully with Google Classroom, and it's all, synced. So it's going to roster your students just like you got that, you got your takeaway already via email, just because you joined this session with your Google login.
So anybody who has a Google account is able to access it when you share that Join PD link. You don't have to roster it for them to see the slideshow, but if you want to share it to Classroom, they'll have to be logged into Classroom.
Okay, can I stay on at the end for just a minute to clarify?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure. So let's just open it up at this point for a minute or two. For other questions you might have, feel free to raise your hand. We can have an open chat, and then we'll talk about next steps.
Looks like Trish wrote an answer about Edpuzzle embedding. Trish, you should be able to go to Edpuzzle to see the grade from the Edpuzzle. I saw you had your hand up. I don't know if you had anything else to add to that question or not, but go ahead and unmute your mic.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah,
So I stepped away for a moment. Sorry. But in Pear Deck, what I think I'm really loving is that it's a slideshow, a Google slideshow, right? Essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And Pear Deck is the tool that kind of lays on top of that existing slideshow. So you can take an existing slideshow and make it interactive by laying on these Pear Deck options, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's templates. I got that part of the opener. Go ahead, Renee.
Were you in the session when I was showing how I made each slide interactive?
Yeah, a little bit of that. Yeah,
Okay.
where you were laying on certain features. Yeah. Okay. And then what I think I also like, but I just wanted to clarify, when you were presenting to us and then we went in as students, every time you added something to a slide that you wanted us to go to or see, like a video or a flip grid, does it always split screen for the kids so they stay in the slideshow but then go to that movie or whatever?
Yes, it does always split screen so that they're still technically in your Edpuzzle and they see your instructions on the Google slide. But they're also able to go, they're still in your Pear Deck, but they see your instructions and they can go to the flip grid or whatever it is that they're going to do their other response.
Okay. And so when that split screen occurred as a student, am I able to, as the student, go into that flip grid and maybe make it bigger, or do I always stay in that split screen mode? Do you know what I'm saying? Because I didn't know if I could control that.
I think if there's a video, the little like YouTube, like little square button in the bottom right is there. I haven't played with that to like make it bigger or not, but I would imagine that button would make it full screen.
Okay. Okay. But I still stay in the slideshow. I can interact with any other links or whatever that I laid over in Pear Deck. And then and I'm sorry, I don't mean to make you repeat your work, but when the student finishes the work, the interactive lesson, let's say they're doing it asynchronous. You said, Michael, that this could be done asynchronously.
Yes.
So when they're all done, I, as the teacher, can go in at any time and pull up those, for lack of a better word, reports, or I forgot what you call them.
Takeaways.
Right? I can read those, respond to those, etc.
Yeah. Yep. And actually, David, you could, if students are working asynchronously, you could get in and see them working in real time.
That's what I thought.
So say you said to your students, I want you to get on this Pear Deck between, 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. Or 12 and 2, whatever it might be. you could actually be on and you can see who's in there and what they're doing as they're doing it
Okay.
asynchronously.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And
so
then
that-
that doesn't prevent them from, it doesn't lock them out when they're in a Pear Deck session or whatever, however you call this thing that we create. Like we joined PD and we typed in the code. I still could move around my computer and click on different things and do other stuff if I wanted to. It's not like a lockout program.
Correct.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Very powerful. I'm really impressed. I don't think it replaces, certain, because it's about the why, right? So
Yeah.
it doesn't replace everything, but holy cannoli, can it make your slides way more interactive? Like right now, I thought my slides were pretty good because at least they spell out what I want the kids to know and do, but there's no interactivity. It's just, here's my slideshow. I hope it makes sense. I've written it in such a way that step by step by step, now go do it. But now I can embed a lot of that work right into the slideshow.
Mhm.
That's
That's
really
what's so beautiful about Pear Deck and why I think it's really the best of what technology has to offer right now, because we can embed the formative assessment right into the slides and embed all of those other, cool features like websites and things like that and drawing. And it really helps us to harness the power of the tech to do what we need to do. So
I will say that embedding some of the sites can be a little bit tricky. And there's some
yes.
definitely some tips and tricks that Renee and I have played with, I think for 45 minutes the one day, trying to figure out how to do a specific ed puzzle video.
Yeah, so you're helping a teacher add an ed puzzle. But I want to, on that note, add that following the session later today or tomorrow, or I will send a follow-up where we'll have PD certificates for you guys. I will send kind of my go-to links that take you through how to embed a website, because you need the embeddable URL, not the page URL. So it's a little tricky. We will also be scheduling 2 follow-ups next week where we're going to ask you to come back and maybe share a way that you made one of your slide decks interactive with us. Also, we want to talk about that flashcard factory, which would enable you to do more rich vocabulary instruction via Pear Deck. And what was the other hot topic for next week? Maybe audio.
We talked about doing the audio, yeah.
We could talk more about audio since that's a new feature they literally just added on Tuesday. So we can talk more about that next week as well. But we will send you an email with the certificates, the links to helpful articles on the Pear Deck Knowledge Base website that talk you through exactly how to do some of these things, and then some dates for follow-up sessions next week where we can circle back to some of these topics.
If you want a certificate, it's probably easier if you just email me and then I'll respond just with your certificate rather than sending a mass one, because we're not going to do a survey or a form or anything. So,
okay. Thank you. Yes, David.
As a one department chair to another, do you know what the pricing is going to be, or maybe currently is, for Pear Deck to maintain the level of features that we have, so that we might be able to have good conversations with Karen and Brian?
Yeah. So currently, I mean, if you were to get, a subscription for an individual, it would be $150. But we've requested a quote. We've requested like a quote for the building, a quote for the district. We're waiting on some of those quotes.
Oh, good.
But prior to presenting all of this, and I said this at the very beginning, is I did already speak to Karen and to Brian about making sure that teachers who were using this, who were excited about it, could get it next year. Whether that looks like an individual subscription for you and a handful of other people, or whether that looks like a building-wide license,
Right.
We'll see. It depends on how many users we have. But they're excited about it as an ed tech tool and are committed to purchasing it for the people who are really going to use it.
I saw Trish ask the question about how this could be used with Hapara if once back in the building. Hapara would be tricky to set up if you have other links embedded into the site. I don't know how it would work, and not being in the building, there's no way to test it. But it could be done. It just could be very tricky.
Michelle. You're muted, Michelle. You're muted. Let me see if I can unmute you here.
There, I got it. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. First of all, thank you for doing this. It was very helpful and informative. If once we enable that add-on of Pear Deck, is it just there? Like, are we good to go now for using it and when creating our slides?
Yes.
I will take you back to my screen here to just show you that if you want to stay in the meet for a couple minutes after everybody else leaves.
Okay.
Okay.
And also with Google Slides, you need to use things like text boxes and things like that. So Pear Deck, that we have to continue to do those basic things. It just broadens our capacity to add things to our Google Slides.
Yeah,
Yes?
you can build your slides as you've always done with, images and drawings and text boxes. And then Pear Deck, you're just overlaying those question types to make the slides interactive.
Okay, great. I will stick around to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone, for coming. We'll be in touch shortly with a follow-up email regarding meeting up next week. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right.
Go ahead,
Michelle.
Lindsay.
Hey there. Thank you. That was really, really good. Now I just need like 48 hours to process it all and make sense of it. Unfortunately, we don't have that time. But I'm hoping maybe for the fall or whatever, if we have to use this. So my question was, and obviously we're not all in a Google Classroom, so you just shared that code or whatever. So I could easily send that out. I don't have a Google Classroom for my students. Some SLPs did. I felt it was a huge violation of FERPA, putting all the special ed kids in one Google Classroom, right? Like what says, hey, we all have special needs. So that's why I have not done that. But if I just shared the code, that would be okay.
I would share the link instead of the code. And I would set them up for student pace mode.
Okay.
Unless you're going to be in a Google Meet meeting with them.
Can't you also, I mean, since it's in your Google Drive, just share that out as you would share any other document if you're not using the Google Classroom? You can't share it as your slideshow as an attachment, or?
You could still share the slideshow, but you wouldn't get any of the Pear Deck features.
Oh, so the Pear Deck features can only be used if you're using Google Classroom? Is that what you're saying?
No, only if they're using that link, that joinpd.com and then the code or the link generated.
All right, I need to study this some more.
I know.